Hey everyone, we're at Donkey Projections. I'm Eric and we have Lucas as always.
Hey everyone.
So today we're going to be talking about the state of Minnesota. We're going to be talking about their new polling average. We're going to be talking about the competitive counties and just what is very important in Minnesota. Is it the margins or is it the pivot counties? And we'll be delving very deep into Minnesota.
This is a very late video today. Probably one of the latest we've ever done. Sorry about that. But we are seeing Biden losing a little bit in the polls, so we got to discuss it. And with that being said, let's get right into it. So yes, Biden's lead in Minnesota is dwindling a little bit. By that I mean he lost 5 points in July, mid-July. He was at about like 10 points, which was huge. Wow, that was pretty insane. Before like June, he was at 6 points, but obviously I do think that his polling numbers did go up a lot after the George Floyd incident, which, if you recall, did happen in the state of Minnesota, in the city of Minneapolis. So I think that had a pretty big impact on Biden's lead here. He is leading by only 5.7 now, which I'm saying only, but that is still pretty large of a lead.
To put that in perspective, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania all have higher polling averages than Minnesota. But as you see, there might be a reason for that.
All right, so Emerson College, yes, 2 points for Biden. That it's an A- pollster. I trust that. So that is a significant drop from what we saw before, 18.10 points. So that was a huge change. Now, the Trafalgar poll, you guys know how we are with Trafalgar. I know you guys want to say that Trafalgar did predict the election in 2016 and in 2018, but Trafalgar in 2016 was the last one to poll some of the states, and that's why they did get them correct, because you remember 2016 had so many undecided voters. Trafalgar got it, they were one of the last ones to do the polls. So their numbers were more accurate than some of the other past polls. But still, Trafalgar is known to have a right bias. That's a known fact. That 538 gives it a C-, and they already have it at Trafalgar being right biased. That's been known. So, and even with Trafalgar, I don't think we can exactly trust that. We got to add a few points to the Democrats here, because it's not tied, to be quite frank here. Because I remember seeing a poll, a couple months ago showing Biden only up in Michigan by 1 point. Absolutely not. He's up more than just 1 point by Trafalgar. So Trafalgar, yeah, they got it right in 2016, but they're not really the best pollsters that we trust. But I will admit that, yes, the Emerson poll does raise some concern for the Biden campaign, because a 2-point lead in Minnesota isn't too great, especially from an A- pollster. So let's get discussing. Minnesota does have some, more rural areas here. Let's check them out. So this is the House of Representatives. This is the House of Representatives map, aka the Congressional Districts map. So what you see here is the bigger the congressional district, usually it's the less sparsely populated it is, because congressional districts are usually equal by population, which means larger the size. You can probably assume that it is a bit more rural. They do have quite a few rural areas. One up here, one down here. We're going to show it in a second, but Minnesota isn't really a pivot county or swing county state. They have it's a lot about the margins here. I think I should also mention that Minnesota actually is the state with the longest streak voting Democratic. It didn't go to Reagan in the 1984 landslide, the one state that went to Walter Mondale then. So it's been Democratic for a very, very long time. So these rural areas, are they going to pose a threat to Democrats in the future in the long term? Absolutely. They definitely can. 2020, I don't think they will. And because of that, I think Biden can still carry the state of Minnesota quite soundly.
At the moment, there are actually quite a few rural areas that do swing to the left. Like for example, there was one in Cook County, and it was somewhere in the like northeastern part of Minnesota. And Amy Klobuchar, I believe Lucas was telling me Amy Klobuchar did serve there. That is a possibility. I'm not sure, but not all these rural counties in Minnesota are surprisingly that conservative. Once again, they could be swinging that direction, but at the moment they are maintaining their Democratic bias.
Right, and we can discuss more about it in our next two things. Hennepin County is a huge part of the Minnesota electorate. Let's actually take a look at that. Wikipedia has a nice little grid thing here. Look at how big that Hennepin County square is. That is pretty big. But look at how many little counties there are. And those do end up kind of adding up. And this is by population, by the way. So those small population counties do add up. And we saw that in 2016. Let's actually take a look right now. Let's do a comparison. I have pulled up the 2016 presidential election in Minnesota, and I also have pulled up the 2012 presidential election between Barack Obama and Mitt Romney in Minnesota. Obviously, Obama won this by a very large margin. I think that's about 8 points. And Hillary won it by a very slim margin, 1.5 points. It was a terrible performance. But let's talk about the factors that possibly led to Hillary's poor performance here. She didn't focus on the Rust Belt. She thought she had it locked down, but she didn't. At the end of the day, she did win Minnesota, but she lost a lot of the other Rust Belt states.
If you actually switch back to the 2016 race, you can see you'd be surprised how there's so many red counties, and the margins, yeah, as Lucas pointed out, they are lower, but that Hennepin County from 2012 to 2016 did stay. And that northeastern part of Minnesota, that tip over there, also stayed. And that did give her the edge. So that's going to be pretty important.
But yeah, as Eric said, take a look at this. You go from having almost none of this, I don't know what to call this red, but 67% red. You have almost none of those here. You have like a couple. A lot of those are this 50 to 60% red. But then you switch back to 2016. Look at how many of that red is here. A lot of those margins became wider for a Trump victory. That's very interesting to see. So that's why we do think this might pose an issue for future elections with the more rural counties, but I don't think it will really impact the 2020 election. Like, as you can see here, southern portion, you do see some of those counties switch, and some here as well. Oops. But for the most part, there was a lot of margins changing. Look at that. That's insane. All right. Now let's just discuss importance. Let me actually fill in this map really quickly, and we can get discussing. All right, we got it here right now. Minnesota genuinely is probably the state that Hillary won that Trump has the best chance at. And even when I say best chance, it's really not that great of a chance. I'd give it like 20% chance. Right now, I think that Minnesota has a better chance of going to Trump than like Michigan would, or possibly even Wisconsin. So let's take a look at this. Minnesota's report. This is our current predictions. If we flip Minnesota to be red, I genuinely do think that we could see other states moving red as well. Not just Minnesota, maybe like Nevada, possibly. Maybe even the Rust Belt. Actually, no, I do think Joe has the Rust Belt locked down pretty well. Minnesota flipping right now, again, is not a good chance, but Minnesota is quite important. 10 electoral votes. It's a solid base of electoral votes that the Democrats have. We can demonstrate some examples here. If the Democrats were to lose Minnesota, I mean, Trump can probably pick up Arizona, North Carolina, Florida already put it at that. So with Minnesota, all Trump needs to flip is North Carolina, Florida, Arizona. He's already at a tie. So that's why Minnesota is quite important for the Democrats to hold on to if they do want to elect Joe Biden. Eric, is there anything you want to add?
Yeah, but the situation you just pointed out at the moment isn't that likely. As you said,
Right.
Minnesota going to Donald Trump isn't that likely. It is, maintaining, as we discussed, it didn't even go to Reagan. It was the one state that went to Mondale. So at the moment, I
Although
wouldn't.
I do think we should add that Mondale was the Minnesota was his home state, and he did win it by 0.2%. So I think that's important to note.
Okay, yes, but even then, like 2016 was a very bad election for Clinton. And she still won it. So I don't see why at the moment. Why this would go to Trump. My opinion is that it's still going to go to Biden, despite this droop in the polls for him. This is always variable and fluctuating, and we'll just have to see if stuff changes. But at the moment, I don't think Minnesota will fall in a very likely manner.
Right, and I think in potentially and also in like current event wise, with the Black Lives Matter protest, this was the epicenter. It's going to have also a pretty big impact here. I believe we saw voter registration go up a lot. So with that being said, we do have Minnesota as a likely state right now, margins wise. We do think it still has a very good shot of going to Joe Biden. And that's the end of the video for today. Thank you all so much for watching. If you like this episode, please hit the like button. If you like our content, please hit subscribe. We'll see you in our next episode tomorrow.
See ya.